Hey, my name is Marc Shumsker. You may know me as True Poker Dealer. And right now I'm going to teach you how to deal a double board bomb pot. I'm going to teach Texas Hold'em in this video. I will do another video with PLO. You can check that one out if you want to see it. So for me in my life, when I deal a double board Texas Hold'em bomb pot, I'm tapping into a table, usually a 1-2 no limit Texas Hold'em cash game. And in that 1-2 no limit game, the first hand that I deal to these players for my 30 minutes at the table is going to be, instead of a regular 1-2 no limit hand, a double board Texas Hold'em bomb pot. Okay, so what that means is I'm going to deal out 2 boards for this hand instead of 1, and each board is going to be worth half the pot. The way that it works is I get to the table, I'll take my new deck out of the well, you switch decks when you do this, and then I'll start shuffling. And I want you to know, the procedure that I'm going to show you right now is just my recommended procedure. Most of what I'm teaching now is what we do at Texas Card House. Not necessarily all of it, but there's a lot of different variations of procedure that's good. I'm just giving you something to ground yourself so that you have an idea of how this flows out. And if you work at a poker room with a different type of procedure, just follow what they do. It's totally fine. Okay, I'll talk through this one procedure. Feel free to put in the comments the differences that you see in yours. So when I get to the table, I start saying hi to the players. I look at where the button is, and I'm going to look around and see who's put their ante out. And usually I like to say like, hey everybody, bomb pot time, because I don't want to waste time while they're remembering, oh yeah, it's a new dealer. Oh yeah, I'm going to stop my conversation and put out $5. They're not necessarily going to be paying attention. And so I'm sort of creating some small talk around the idea that, hey, put your $5 out. So I shuffle the deck up to the point where I'm about to cut. I'm not saying you need to do this, but this is sort of the old school tournament mentality when we used to collect antes from every single player before the big blind ante came in. And I like using this procedure where we go riffle, riffle, box, riffle. Before we cut, we collect all the antes. I like to go around the table in one direction, and that helps me make sure that I've gotten the ante from everybody. So I'm going to start this way. If these people are a little bit slow, I might go 1, 2, 3 here. And when I get to this player, I say, I need your ante. And if they say anything, I say, I've got these 3 players already, and I show them the chips, you know, something like that. If they're like, I already put it out, you know. So I just go in one direction. It doesn't matter which way. Collect all the antes. And notice that I'm going to stack them up here. And I actually do it this way right here. And you'll see why in a second. This is a split pot game because each board gets half. So I actually stack the pot as I go. Also, in the way that I like to do bomb pots, not every player has to play. We let it be an option. And notice that the dealer button's here. So this is considered a separate hand within the same game. So the button last hand in the 1-2 no limit game with the previous dealer would have been here and then moved to this player. Okay, let's assume for a second that this player is at the table and they were normally going to be the button anyway. A lot of poker rooms, and the way I like to do it in a 1-2 game to make it simple, is just to have this button be the location of the button for this bomb pot. You might also find that there's a actual bomb pot button that gets passed around the table one hand at a time in the opposite direction of the way that the button travels. So we're going to forget about the bomb pot button. We're just going to say the button's here. This player is going to be the button for this hand. That's just the way it works out. Everyone gets the option whether or not to play. And the next hand, which goes back to regular 1-2 no limit, is just going to be the button here again. So we don't move the button in a bomb pot. And so here we are. We've riffle, riffle, box, riffle. And there is no pre-flop action in this hand. So we go right to the cut. We deal the cards out. So it's 2 cards for everybody in this Texas Hold'em double board bomb pot. And then we go right to bringing the flops. And the way that I like to do this is I like to just have there be 1 burn card for both flops. And the reason that I like that, and that is what they do at Texas Card House where I work, and I totally agree with it. The reason I like this is because the burn card's intention is to protect the top card when there's action that's happening, so that just in case, you know, we don't believe that anyone knows that the cards are marked or anything like that, but just in case we're protecting it so no one can see what's coming next. So I'm just gonna burn once because we're gonna bring both turns at once. We're gonna bring both rivers at once. And I think it's fine that way, and also it allows more players to play in like a PLO game. So anyway, so here we are. I've burned a card. I've brought 2 flops. I like to keep them kind of neat in front of each other. It's not perfect. It's okay. A little bit of felt between each card, which you learn in my course. And then the action starts over here to the left of the button. And because it's no limit, they're going to be able to bet as much as they want. Now, we're going to make this sort of simple. If you're in a poker room that takes a rake, I assume that they'll take a rake for this. I've actually never dealt a game that takes a rake that's also a bomb pot. They might have some unique procedure around that, and that's fine. So just find out from your poker room that you're going to work at what they do here. But let's say that this player bets 10, and this player bets 10, calls 10 rather. Calls 10. I'm going to keep everybody in this hand just to get us a nice little showdown. I don't know what the cards are. So our procedure, the best procedure, is going to be to grab all these chips just like this, stack them up. If you want to bring the turns first and then collect all the chips, it's an advanced move. That's up to you. Some poker rooms allow it, some don't. More hands get out when you do that, but also more mistakes happen. So that's up to you in your poker room. But here we go. We've got the turn. So notice I burned a card and then brought both turns back to back. And we're going to say that everybody checks here. I'm going to burn, river, river. And now right here is an interesting moment. Bomb pots usually provide time to count the stub. But the question is, well, wait a minute. I'm used to counting the stub with 8 counts and then however many are left over. But now I'm in a different situation where I've got 2 boards. So how do I do that? So in a bomb pot to count the stub, what I'm going to do as the action starts with this player is I'm going to say, okay, we've already got, if you look at it, there's 3 burn cards here and 5 board cards here. That's just like normal. And then we've also got 5 cards here for this board. Well, that's different. So I'm going to just go like this. 1, 2, 3, and I'm counting that as my first 8 count. If you don't know how to count the stub, skip this part. And you can watch my how to count the stub video. It's very short. It's only a few minutes long. But I'm going to count these 3 cards as my first 8 count. So it'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I've got 6 players here. So see if you remember how many cards I need to have in order for it to be correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We do 8 counts so that if you need to pause to follow the action, you remember where you are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like it's correct. And again, if you want to understand the details of that, you can go into my how to count the stub video. So action is going to be over here. We're going to assume that they go check, check, check. In a 1 tuna limit bomb pot, I personally like the rule that if a player goes all in, all of their chips play. Some places don't want to do that because it's a $5 ante and there's no instance of any small chips, but I'm fine with it. So this player wants to bet 25. I'm fine with, or 27. I'm fine with that. This player will call. I'm going to have everybody call just so you can see what this looks like. And I also want you guys to see as the dealer what I have to do here, and I have to do it sort of quickly. So, okay, everybody calls. Now it's time for the showdown. I'm going to get change to everybody that needs change first. So I'm going to bring in the bets that are the correct size here. And now we've got 3. Bring this in. And they're going to be doing their showdown stuff at the same time. And I'm trying to keep the colors stacked properly. And I'm going to just go like this, and you can ignore my sort of messy bank. Yes, we don't like that, but this is my house, and you're fine with it. So now my goal is to get this pot stacked up like this. The burn cards, we got 3 burn cards. I can throw those in the muck. My goal, if I have the time, is as they're doing their thing, without blocking the board. You know, if I'm over here, this player might not be able to see the board, so I have to be really aware of if I'm blocking them or not. But along my journey, I'm going to be cutting this in half if I have time. And now everybody's going to showdown. So we're going to just show down all these hands, and we'll see what everybody's got. And I show his hand down and knock his chips over. What a dealer, right? So give you guys a second to look at these. So just off the top, I'm looking up here, and you know, it's really easy. I'm evaluating these boards, and I'm seeing what the best possible hand in. So there's no pairs in anybody's hand, so there's chances are there's no full house unless someone has an ace. Well, this player has 3 aces. There's no possible flush up here. There's only 2 hearts, 2 diamonds. So I see 3 aces up top, so I'm going to frame that right away. And then I'm going to look down here, and I'm looking for hearts, and I'm looking for maybe a 6, 7, something like that, trying to figure out what the best hand is over here. So because I don't see any of that, I'm actually just going to start with somewhere that if someone has a piece of this board, and I'm going to announce it. Okay, so up here I've said I see 3 aces with a 9, 7, and then over here I'm going to say what I see. I see 10s and 3s, and I'm framing it down this way. In poker, we generally say to frame up, but in a double board bomb pot, it makes sense to frame down. Again, this is what I say to do. This is not a universal procedure. This is a relatively new part of poker, and it's just making its way into the game. So, a few years ago, maybe 4 years old, 5 years old, something like that. So here, I'm seeing that this Jack 9 hasn't beaten anything, so I'm going to take this to the muck. I'm seeing that this Queen 8, they've got a pair of 8s down there and a 4 flush up top. I'm letting that go. I'm taking this hand, and I'm naming what I see down here, but I'm sort of going and verifying with everybody. They have a diamond and a heart, not 2 hearts, so no flush there. And I'm giving the players a chance to be like, whoa, 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 wait. Dealers do make mistakes, probably more so reading boards in double board bomb pots than any other situation, especially in the PLO ones before you get used to it. Even for me, when I started dealing double board PLO bomb pots, it took me a few months to really be on it for reading the hands. The players are on it themselves, a lot of them, and it's a little tough to like do all the stuff you have to do and stay on it. So give yourself some permission to learn as you go, but also, you don't want to make a mistake, so don't rush yourself and feel like you need to go too fast. So here we've got these 2 players, they're splitting it. I've already got it nicely split out. Some dealer procedure says you go one side at a time so that you don't mix them up. I feel like it's fine just to grab these at the same time, hand them out like this, and scoop this up. So that's the basics of how to deal a double board Texas Hold'em bomb pot. And I just created this other example because I wanted to show all of you one other thing here. Let's say that we're on the river and we've got 3 players in the hand here. And let's say this player bets 150. This player calls 150. This player goes all in. And we get call. Right? So they throw out 2 black chips. They throw out 2 black chips. All right. In a scenario like this, first, you want to make the bets right pretty quickly. So, they're going to want to show down almost immediately. That's fine. You can let them. I'm counting out this bet right here, seeing what they have. So they have 200, 300, 330, 336. Okay, so each player has 336. So in this case here, I've got these players with all these chips behind. I could make change for them, totally fine. But I'm just going to tell them to put out the right amount. I'm saying, I toss this chip back and say, give me 11 more, right? And do the same thing with them. And, the players generally want things to go more smoothly. So now it's time for the showdown. I could be bringing these in, but let's say they just show down immediately. All right, there's no time to spare, and they've shown down immediately. So we can see here on this board, these players have a straight, both of them with the 10-8. They almost had a straight flush, right? And they have 10s down here. This player has queens down here. They had 3 queens up here, but that's not as good as a straight. But down here, they've got a pair of queens. So they probably thought they were playing this board. They ended up winning this board. That happens sometimes. It's always sort of funny when that happens. But in this case, who's going to win what, right? Well, these players are chopping this board. So they're going to get a quarter each. And this player is getting this entire board. So they're going to get a half of the pot here. And so, I might have, if I had time, I might have split this like I had it before. So you can see this is chopped up. Burn cards can go in the muck. So here's a case where the question is, how do you do this? Especially with players all like uncomfortable, their money's on the table, it's confusing. So what we're going to do here, there are some shortcuts around this, but when you've got 3 players involved and 2 of them are chopping, there's not a shortcut that comes to mind for me. If you think of a shortcut for this, you can put it in the comments. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring all this in, and just to make it easier, I'm going to keep it by color denomination and just stack up chips. I can fix it again in a second. So here we go. We got some black chips. We'll put them back here. We got red chips here. Make sure that you have been paying attention and that you can see on the sides of the chips that there's nothing, that there's no dirty stacks. And so here we go. I am creating even stacks as we go. And so this player is going to get half of the pot because they have a pair of queens down here. So we are going to go like this. Clear our hands. We're going to get rid of their hand here. And it's a really good idea to talk your game, meaning say what you're doing as you go. The more you do that, the more confidence everyone will have with you. So just like this. So here we go. Now we're going to chop up this part of the pot, just like that. And now the button stays here, and we just get on to the next hand. All right, now I put this scenario together just to illustrate one other thing that does happen a lot in bomb pots, especially in PLO, but it certainly happens in Texas Hold'em, and you need to know how to handle this. So here we've got a scenario where this player went all in. They're all in for, so we've got 1, 2, 79, and 279 right here for the call. So we can use our all in and call button if we want. And so now it's time for the showdown. And notice over here I've got my chips stacked by denomination. That's fine. At the showdown, this player shows 8, 9 of diamonds. This player shows 8, 9 as well. Seems like a regular chop, right? Seems like they got 9s and 8s and a straight. But this player's actually got a flush up here. So this player has a flush up here. They're going to win this top board. And down here, they both have the same straight. So they're going to chop this board. So that means that this player gets half the pot plus a quarter of the pot. So 3/4 of the pot. And this player gets what we call quartered, meaning they just get 1/4 of the pot. So they get some money back, but overall they might lose a little bit. So in this scenario, the question is, what do we do? Well, the easy way to do this, that's for sure the procedure that you can do anytime you need to, even though the players might not like it, is you bring all these chips in and then you separate them and then you award half the pot to this player first, and then you split what's left and then you hand it out. But another way to do it that's really simple and a little bit quicker is so if you think about it, this player is going to get 3/4 of the pot. This player is going to get 1/4 of the pot. Okay, that means out of all this money right here, this player is going to get 75% of it. This player is going to get 25% of it. Okay, so if you take all this money right here, you can basically say, if they get 75% of it, if we give them 50% of it back, meaning this plus this is 100% of the money, this is half the money because these are equal. If you give them this part back, and then you split this in half, then they both get the correct amount. So when somebody gets quartered, it's common practice for this player to get their bet back if they get 3/4, and for this player to split the money that they have in front of them. So here's how we do that. So this player right here is going to take their bet back. So you would say, okay, you take this back, and then we're going to split this money here. So you don't even have to calculate and count it. You can if you want, but you can literally just split it in half. So I'm going to make change for this right here, put this in here, and I'm just treating this just like a split pot. And then I notice here that we're actually short, and it doesn't work. So what the easiest thing to do here is when it's 9, it's an odd number. I can't give them 4.5 out of this. There's two things you can do. One, you can either have both players throw an equal amount into this main pot, okay? And now you're only doing it for this amount here. So now you got $8, so we're just gonna turn this into 4. So we'll make change like this. All right, and now we're splitting this in half, and I would give this player this amount, and they would take that back. The other thing that I could have done, and it's just something I see through experience, is let's say that I put this back here and put this back here. So we had the dollar come in from both players already, so I'll put that back here. Okay, so in this scenario right here, you could also have both players just throw a red chip in. It's the same thing. Your goal is just to get an even number there. It doesn't matter. All right, and then here we go, nice and even. So this goes over here, this goes back to the player, and then you chop this up. And again, the way to chop this up, just like this. This player is going to get half of this, and then they're going to split the other half. As a general rule, I'm always going to put the extra chip in the stack that's going to get split in half, because then we're not doing that twice in any scenario. I've never actually run the math on that to see if it matters, but for $1 in this, it's always going to work out fine. Also, if you notice, I'm going to get rid of my black chip just to make my life a little bit easier. So I'm intentionally choosing to put this side with the extra $1. Normally, just standard procedure would be to have it on this side, but I want to get rid of this black chip. I want to make this easy for myself so that I don't have to make change later. Not that I couldn't do it, I just don't want to. So this is going to go here first, and you're going to announce, all right, here's half, and then we're going to chop the rest. So I'm just going like this, and I need to make change there. Some places will say that you don't chop down to the dollar, even in the 1 to no limit / Texas Hold'em $5 bomb pot. I just do it this way when I deal in the poker room I'm at, so it's fine with me. And then we clean the cards up. And that is your introduction to a Texas Hold'em double board bomb pot. So a couple of things that can come up along this journey. It's a little bit weird when you get to the table for a bomb pot and you have to keep track of the button from the previous regular no limit hand when there's something strange going on, and then you deal a hand in between and then you come back to it, right? So as I'm tapping out of the table, for example, let's say that the player that was sitting here busted. The button went over to this seat. A new player came and sat down. I would need to remember not on this hand, but on the next hand after the bomb pot, that this player can't be the button. Depending on the house rules, there's ways to let them buy the button or different things where you would move the button back, whatever. Not everybody does that. I'm not going to get into it, but I would have to actually remember that for the hand afterwards. So the communication and clear communication is incredibly important from dealer to dealer, especially when there's a bomb pot, because when the previous dealer gets up and he's long gone, you deal a whole bomb pot. It might have a lot of action. It might even take 5 minutes. You need to remember what happened in the previous hand, because the players probably won't, because there's such a complicated event that can happen with that bomb pot hand that people will forget. So you need to keep track of that. So let's say that this is a dead button. Now in some poker rooms, they don't let a player that comes to the dead button play the bomb pot. I think that that's based on the traditional logic of poker, and I understand. In some places, they actually do let them play when they come into the button. I think nowadays it's probably slightly more common not to let the player play. I actually think it's harmless in a 1-2 no limit game. Maybe not in some games. It's splitting hairs a little bit. It like violates a fundamental rule. I get that you have to earn the button in order to get the button. But also there's the other side of the coin where it's better for everyone if people can play more hands and participate more. And this player didn't choose to enter in this spot. And it's a bomb pot, so it's not actually a part of the regular hand. That's sort of why it's nice to have a bomb pot button though, because this actually never comes up and this player can always play when there's a bomb pot button going around the table. Like if this player had previously had the bomb pot button, it would just go to this player and then they would be able to play. So it's a little complicated there. I think you understand what I'm saying. Besides, this is not me teaching you how to do this properly. This is just me explaining bomb pot stuff. One other thing that I do sometimes, occasionally I'll actually break the procedure in a bomb pot hand. So like I'll come to the table and let's say that it's 6-handed like this and only 4 players are actually playing. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. If I were to sit at the table and there's only going to be 4 of the 6 players that are playing, or 7 of the 9, or 6 of the 9, it might be a little hard to remember. Like if I collect all these and bring them here, it might be hard to remember who's in and who's not. And so when I have something like that, I already actually forget. I think these are the 2 players that are out. Fortunately, this is not real money and not a real poker room. But let's say that these 4 are the ones that were in. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But what I'll actually do is I'll break procedure in the interest of game protection, and I'll deal 1, 2. I'll say it to myself in my head: 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll go around, collect the chips, burn, and bring the 2 flops. And I do it that way just because that way I'm ensured that I get everybody in. And you know, there's the tiny chance that somebody might take their bet back because they just see the chip laying there. We'll assume it's innocent. And if you say 1, 2, 3, 4, when you go to collect them in order, if this chip wasn't here anymore, and I go to reach for it, I can tell them, oh, I need that chip back. And you know, you don't need to accuse them of anything. You just say, oh, I need that red chip back. They'll be like, oh, you know. So I just wanted to name that you can deal it out that way too, at least according to my rules. And I don't work at your casino, but it's a little trick that I use sometimes when, like, say there's 6 players in the bomb pot, but there's 9 people actually at the table. It can be difficult to remember who's in if all the antes are out there. If the antes are already collected, rather.